Commander Jackson Mitchell stood frozen at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel Olive Branch, his weathered face illuminated by the azure glow of energy weapons crisscrossing the void ahead. This wasn't how humanity's first official diplomatic mission to the Galactic Conclave was supposed to begin. The small team of Earth's finest diplomats and specialists had spent 18 months in transit, expecting to arrive at Centauri Station during a historic assembly of the 37 known spacefaring civilizations. Instead, they dropped out of FTL directly into the opening salvo of what appeared to be the latest battle in the centuries-long war between the Valkyrie Federation and the Nexus Imperium. The Olive Branch shuddered violently as its emergency systems struggled to compensate for the gravitational distortions caused by nearby weapons fire. "Status report," demanded Dr. Eleanor Reeves, Earth's appointed ambassador plenipotentiary, her voice steady despite the chaos. Lieutenant Commander Thomas Rodriguez, their military attaché, responded without taking his eyes off the tactical display. "We're caught between Valkyrie and Nexus battle groups, ma'am. Neither side appears to have noticed us yet, but that won't last." Eleanor exchanged glances with Professor Alexandra Davis, xenolinguistics expert, and Marcus Blackwood, cultural anthropologist, both of whom had spent years studying the limited data Earth had received about the galactic conflict. "This war has raged for over 3 centuries, Marcus whispered, with billions dead across 17 star systems. Eleanor nodded grimly and straightened her uniform. "Commander Mitchell, open all communication channels. Broadcast in all known frequencies and languages." Mitchell complied as Eleanor continued, "This is Ambassador Eleanor Reeves representing Earth's United Nations. We are a diplomatic vessel and request immediate cessation of hostilities in our vicinity." For 17 excruciating seconds, nothing happened. Then, simultaneously, both alien fleets stopped firing. 3 massive warships, architectural marvels of crystalline spires and geometric precision, broke formation and approached the comparatively tiny human vessel. The comm system erupted with overlapping transmissions in dozens of languages, which the ship's AI struggled to interpret. "They're both demanding we declare allegiance," Alexandra translated, her fingers dancing across interfaces. "Each side claims the other initiated this battle in violation of the Procyon Accords." Before Eleanor could respond, a blinding flash erupted from beyond the nearest moon as a third battle group emerged, the biomechanical hives of the Zcathar Collective, opportunistic predators who typically scavenged battlefields after major engagements. "They're not supposed to be here," Rodriguez muttered. The collective signed non-aggression pacts with both sides. The situation deteriorated rapidly as the Valkyrie and Nexus commanders each accused the humans of being advanced scouts for the other, while the Zcathar launched boarding pods toward all vessels indiscriminately. Acting on instinct honed from years of crisis negotiation on Earth, Eleanor made a decision that would later be studied in diplomatic academies across the galaxy. "Mitchell, drop our shields completely. Rodriguez, power down all defensive systems. Alexandra, broadcast this message on all frequencies. We are unarmed observers with crucial information for all parties. I request emergency parley under Article 7 of the Galactic Conventions." Her team stared in disbelief. Article 7 was a theoretical protocol Earth had only learned about third-hand, but Eleanor's unwavering confidence silenced their objections. Miraculously, the gambit worked. Within minutes, the Olive Branch was escorted to a neutral monitoring station orbiting the system's gas giant, where security detachments from all 3 powers converged. As Eleanor led her team through alien corridors toward the hastily arranged conference chamber, Mitchell whispered, "What critical information do we actually have?" Eleanor's lips curved slightly. "None yet. But we've got something better. We're the only people in this room with no stake in a conflict that's decimated half the quadrant. And sometimes, Commander, that's exactly the perspective needed to see solutions no one else can." The massive doors parted to reveal representatives of 3 species who had never before sat at the same table without bloodshed following. As Eleanor stepped forward, she realized that humanity's first diplomatic mission had just become something far more consequential, the first step in what would become the most extraordinary peace process the galaxy had ever witnessed. The conference chamber hummed with ancient tensions as Eleanor faced the alien representatives, each species more imposing than humanity had imagined from their limited intelligence reports. Fleet Commander Jerix of the Valkyrie stood nearly 8 feet tall, his crystalline exoskeleton refracting light into prismatic patterns across the chamber, while Supreme Arbiter Kalmaru of the Nexus Imperium's 4 arms remained perpetually in motion, manipulating holographic data displays that surrounded her serpentine form. Most disturbing was the Zkthar representative, Hive Director VZKTH, whose biomechanical bodies served as host to thousands of specialized organisms that occasionally emerged from various orifices to perform incomprehensible tasks before retreating. "Your deception is noted, human," rasped Jerix, mandibles clicking in what Alexandra whispered was a gesture of contempt. "You claimed critical information, yet I sense only ignorance." Eleanor nodded respectfully. "You're absolutely correct, Commander. We possess no secret intelligence about your conflicts. That was simply the only way to create this opportunity." Before Jerix could respond with what appeared to be mounting rage, she continued, "What we offer instead is something far more valuable, genuine neutrality. For 3 centuries, your civilizations have fought across 17 systems, each conflict building upon grievances from the last until the original causes are buried beneath generations of retribution." The chamber fell silent as Eleanor activated a holographic display showing Earth, a small blue marble, insignificant by galactic standards. "Humanity has only recently achieved interstellar travel. We have no historical allegiances, no territorial claims in disputed regions, and no prejudices about who fired the first shot at the Battle of Procyon or who violated the Accords of Deneb IV." Kalmaru's primary eyes narrowed. "Your species presumes much, to think you can resolve what our greatest minds cannot." The Nexus Arbiter slithered closer, her scales rippling with bioluminescent warnings. "Do you know why the Zkthar violated their neutrality pacts today? Because this system contains the last known reserves of chromium ore in the quadrant, essential for FTL communication. Whoever controls it dominates information flow for 12 parsecs." Eleanor glanced at Marcus, who subtly nodded confirmation. Their research had identified resource competition as a key driver of the conflict. Before she could respond, the chamber's security alarms blared. Lieutenant Rodriguez's hand moved instinctively to where his sidearm would have been had it not been confiscated. The station's central AI announced, "Multiple unauthorized vessels detected. Classified as Draken cartel signatures." All 3 alien representatives reacted with visible alarm. The Draken were notorious arms dealers who profited from perpetuating the war. "They shouldn't know about this meeting," hissed Hive Director VZKTH, thousands of microorganisms swarming anxiously across its surface. Eleanor seized the unexpected opportunity. "Yet they do, which means at least one faction here has a security breach." The accusation hung in the air as suspicion flared between the ancient enemies. Commander Mitchell leaned close to Eleanor, whispering urgently, "Ambassador, the station's defenses are minimal." "If the Draken attack," Eleanor raised her hand, silencing him before addressing the room. "This station will be destroyed unless all 3 of your fleets coordinate its defense. Consider this the first test of whether cooperation is even possible." For several agonizing moments, the chamber remained paralyzed with mutual distrust. Then Jerix barked a command into his communicator, followed moments later by Kalmaru and VZKTH. On the tactical displays, the 3 previously battling fleets began repositioning to create a defensive perimeter. Eleanor exhaled slowly, catching Marcus's subtle nod of approval. They had achieved something unprecedented, the first cooperative military action between these powers in centuries. As the station shuddered under the first Draken bombardment, Eleanor gathered her team close. "The real negotiation begins now," she whispered. "We need to understand each faction's non-negotiable needs before the immediate crisis passes." Alexandra studied the alien representatives, now huddled with their respective advisors. "They're scared, Eleanor. Not of the Draken, of what happens if this temporary alliance actually succeeds." Eleanor nodded, watching as the combined might of 3 galactic powers that had spent centuries trying to annihilate each other now moved in coordinated defense patterns against the common enemy. "Good," she replied. fear of change is something every species understands. It gives us common ground, and common ground is where peace begins. The combined alien fleets made short work of the Draken vessels, their normally competing tactical doctrines blending into a devastatingly effective defense that left the arms dealers in full retreat within 30 minutes. As the station's damage control systems engaged, Eleanor recognized the critical window of opportunity before ancient animosities could resurface. "Commander Mitchell, assemble our negotiation suite in the auxiliary chamber," she ordered, then turned to the alien representatives. The Draken attack was no coincidence. Someone wanted to prevent exactly what just happened, cooperation that proves coexistence is possible. Professor Davis had been quietly analyzing communication patterns during the battle and stepped forward. "If I may, Ambassador, the tactical coordination we just witnessed was remarkable, but I observed something more significant. When Valkyrie cruisers shielded Nexus medical vessels, and ZK-Thar interceptors eliminated missiles targeting Valkyrie command ships, it wasn't merely strategic." The comm chatter contained expressions of gratitude. This revelation visibly unsettled the alien leaders, but before they could retreat into defensive postures, Marcus Blackwood played his carefully prepared hand. "During our 18-month journey, we studied the publicly available records of your conflict. We've identified 17 distinct opportunities where peace was nearly achieved, each one sabotaged by unexpected incidents benefiting arms suppliers like the Draken." He activated a holographic timeline that correlated peace initiatives with subsequent military escalations. "Someone profits immensely from your continued destruction." The auxiliary chamber transformed into an unprecedented summit as the hours stretched into days. Lieutenant Rodriguez coordinated with the combined fleet commanders to maintain the defensive perimeter, while Dr. Olivia Warren, the mission's xenobiologist, worked tirelessly to ensure appropriate environmental conditions for the physiologically diverse delegates. The human team's dedication impressed even the most skeptical aliens. They worked without sleep for 36 hours straight, their only advantage being their fresh perspective on a conflict that had become dogma to its participants. On the third day, breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Technical specialist Kevin Harrington, the youngest member of Earth's delegation, had been tasked with integrating the incompatible data systems of the three factions. "Ambassador," he called, his voice trembling with excitement. "I've cross-referenced centuries of battle logs from all three civilizations. The pattern is unmistakable. In 78% of major escalations, the same quantum communication signature appears in encrypted transmissions across all sides within hours of the incident." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "You're suggesting a fourth party has been manipulating all sides?" Commander Jerix's crystalline structure darkened with emotion. "Impossible. The Valkyrie cannot be manipulated so easily." Eleanor stepped forward, her voice gentle but firm. "Not manipulation, Commander, infiltration. According to our analysis, approximately 3% of your government and military personnel have been compromised, a small number, but strategically placed. Similar patterns existed within the Nexus and ZK-Thar hierarchies." As tensions threatened to explode anew with accusations of treachery, Eleanor made her boldest move yet. "We propose a joint investigation team, composed of officers from all three powers, plus Earth observers, to identify the compromised individuals and their true masters." The alien representatives withdrew to consult their governments, leaving the human team exhausted but hopeful. Mitchell approached Eleanor as she reviewed their progress. "You're playing a dangerous game, Ambassador. If we're right about this conspiracy, we've just painted targets on our backs." Eleanor nodded, massaging her temples. The alternative was watching them obliterate each other while humanity remained a galactic footnote. Besides, she added with a tired smile, Earth needs allies. If we succeed, we'll have three of the most powerful civilizations in known space indebted to us. As the alien representatives returned, their body language told Eleanor everything before they spoke. The Valkyrie stood straighter, crystals gleaming with purpose. The Nexus Arbiter's movements were deliberate, measured. The ZK-Thar's component organisms moved in harmonious patterns. All had agreed to the joint investigation, the first true cooperation in centuries. "We accept your proposal," announced Kalmaru, "but with one condition. The investigation team will be commanded by a human, you, Ambassador Reeves." Eleanor concealed her surprise as Jerix continued, your species has demonstrated rare insight and immunity to long-standing prejudices. More importantly, you alone have no personnel who could have been compromised over the centuries. As Eleanor formally accepted this unexpected responsibility, Marcus quietly showed her his data tablet. Incoming transmission from Earth, diplomatic mission recalled immediately. Galactic situation too unstable for continued engagement. Eleanor discreetly powered down the tablet without responding. Some orders, she decided, were meant to be defied, especially when the fate of multiple civilizations hung in the balance. The joint investigation team assembled aboard the Valkyrie flagship Crystal Dominion, a vessel so vast it dwarfed Earth's largest cities. Eleanor had selected Rodriguez, Alexandra, and Harrington from her team, while each alien faction contributed their most trusted intelligence officers, though trusted remained a relative term in an environment where anyone might be compromised. The investigation headquarters buzzed with activity as Kevin Harrington established an isolated quantum network impervious to outside infiltration. "We're creating a communications blackout bubble," he explained to the assembled officers. "No transmissions in or out except through manually approved channels. If there are moles among us, they can't report back." Eleanor watched with pride as the young specialist earned grudging respect from aliens whose technological development had preceded humanity's by millennia. 3 days into the investigation, the first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Sub-Inquisitor Nzara, a junior Nexus officer, identified a pattern in supply chain disruptions preceding major battles. These resource allocation algorithms were subtly modified, she explained, her secondary arms manipulating data streams while her primary appendages generated visual models. The changes ensured critical components always failed at precisely the wrong moment, forcing both sides to purchase replacements from intermediaries connected to the Draken. Eleanor immediately recognized the implications. This is financial engineering on a galactic scale. Someone's been manufacturing conflict for profit. The pattern continued to emerge across multiple systems as the team meticulously traced centuries of manipulated intelligence, sabotaged peace initiatives, and strategically eliminated moderates who advocated cooperation. Valkyrie Commander Zarek, whose crystalline features had initially shown nothing but contempt for humans, grudgingly addressed Eleanor during a rare quiet moment. "Your kind sees patterns we have missed. Perhaps because you are too insignificant to have been considered worth corrupting." Eleanor smiled, recognizing the statement as high praise from the proud warrior. "Sometimes being underestimated is the greatest advantage," she replied. On the 12th day, disaster struck. The investigation team had identified 3 high-ranking officers across the factions as likely infiltrators and planned simultaneous apprehension. The operation began flawlessly, until the ZK-Thar target, Admiral VZK-Thar, triggered a biological failsafe that released neurotoxins throughout the containment area. Rodriguez and 2 Valkyrie security officers were caught in the contamination zone. Eleanor watched in horror through quarantine barriers as Rodriguez collapsed, his breathing labored. "The toxin is designed for multi-species lethality," reported Dr. Warren, frantically analyzing samples. "It's breaking down his nervous system." Hive Director VZKTH approached, its biomechanical components reconfiguring. "Your lieutenant will die within hours. Our medical technology cannot help him." Before Eleanor could respond, VZKTH continued, "However, I can save him." The chamber fell silent as the ZK-Thar leader explained. Temporary integration of specialized ZK-Thar organisms could counteract the toxin, but the process had never been attempted on a human, and would create a permanent biological bond. He would become part ZK-Thar, part human. A hybrid unknown in our histories. Eleanor stared at the alien leader, recognizing the monumental significance of the offer. "This goes against your most sacred biological protocols." The Hive Director's primary optical sensors pulsed. "Yes. But he fights to save my people from a threat we did not recognize. Honor demands equivalent sacrifice." With Rodriguez's barely conscious consent, the unprecedented procedure began. As the ZK-Thar microorganisms integrated with the lieutenant's body, the remaining investigation team made their most startling discovery yet. "It's not just the Draken," Harrington announced, his voice hollow as he decoded the final encryption layer. "The manipulation extends to the Galactic Conclave itself. The regulatory body that's supposedly ensuring peace? It's been compromised at the highest levels. The evidence was irrefutable. The supposedly neutral conclave had been subtly steering civilization toward perpetual conflict for centuries. But why? Demanded Kalmaru. Profit alone cannot explain such elaborate deception. The answer came from Marcus Blackwood, who had been studying ancient historical records from all three civilizations. Control, he said simply. Your three species represent the greatest potential powers in the quadrant. United, you would be unstoppable and a threat to whoever sits behind the conclave. Divided, you exhaust your resources and innovation on destroying each other. The revelation sent shockwaves through the command structure. As the team processed this paradigm-shifting information, Eleanor received word that Rodriguez had stabilized, the first successful human Zcathar biological integration in history. When she visited him in the medical bay, his appearance was largely unchanged save for faint bioluminescent patterns beneath his skin and altered pupils that adjusted like camera apertures. "How do you feel, Lieutenant?" Eleanor asked cautiously. Rodriguez flexed his hand, watching the subtle patterns shift beneath his skin. "Like I understand them now, ma'am. The Zcathar, they experience consciousness collectively. It's beautiful in ways I can't explain." He paused, looking directly at Eleanor. "And I can sense something else, fear. Not from the Zcathar, but from somewhere else. Whatever's behind this conspiracy. They're terrified of what's happening right now. They're terrified of us working together." Eleanor nodded grimly. "Then we must be on the right track. Rest up, Lieutenant. Tomorrow we take this evidence to all three governments simultaneously, and pray they believe us before our enemies realize what we've discovered." The unified presentation of evidence to the three governments became a logistical nightmare as Eleanor insisted on absolute secrecy. "If the conclave has infiltrated all three of your civilizations for centuries, we must assume communication channels are compromised," she explained to the assembled Leadership Council meeting in a heavily shielded chamber aboard the Crystal Dominion. The Valkyrie High Command, represented by 7 crystalline elders whose structures had grown complex with age, occupied one side of the chamber. The Nexus governance conglomerate, a sinuous mass of interconnected serpentine forms sharing a collective consciousness, filled specially designed environmental tanks opposite them. Between them, the Zcathar hive concordance pulsed with activity as thousands of component organisms processed information simultaneously. Kevin Harrington had engineered a quantum-isolated presentation system that projected the team's findings directly into the chamber with no external connections. As the evidence mounted, financial trails, manipulated intelligence, sabotaged peace initiatives spanning centuries, the assembled leaders' reactions shifted from skepticism to shock and finally to rage. 3 trillion lives, whispered the eldest Valkyrie, his crystalline structure darkening to near black. 3 trillion of our people have perished in a war manufactured by those who claim to seek peace. The Nexus collective hissed in unified anger, the liquid in their tanks churning with bioluminescent patterns that Alexandra quietly translated as expressions of betrayal beyond forgiveness. Only the Zcathar remained outwardly calm, though Eleanor had learned to recognize the subtle shifts in their collective behavior that indicated deep disturbance. As the presentation concluded, an unexpected voice cut through the tense silence. Lieutenant Rodriguez, still recovering from his hybridization procedure, entered the chamber flanked by medical staff. His appearance had further evolved, the bioluminescent patterns beneath his skin now formed complex, shifting networks, and his eyes had developed multifaceted aspects similar to Zcathar sensory organs. "The conclave knows we're meeting," he announced without preamble. "The Zcathar components within me can sense long-range quantum communications. The conclave has dispatched a special intervention fleet, officially classified as peacekeepers, but armed for full military engagement." High Admiral Zavik of the Valkyrie rose immediately. "We will crush these deceivers with our combined might." The prospect of finally having a clear enemy to fight seemed to energize the warrior race, but Eleanor quickly intervened. "That's exactly what they want, to provoke an attack that justifies their narrative that your species are unstable and violent. We need a different approach." For the next 6 hours, the unprecedented council of former enemies hammered out a strategy that would have been unimaginable weeks earlier. The plan required absolute cooperation across civilizations that had spent centuries perfecting ways to destroy each other. As preparations accelerated, Eleanor withdrew briefly with her core team. Earth still expects us to return, Commander Mitchell reminded her grimly. We've ignored 3 direct recall orders. Eleanor nodded, fatigue evident in her eyes. If we abandon this now, we condemn 3 civilizations to continued war and Earth to isolation. Our planet would eventually be manipulated just like the others. Before further discussion could occur, alarms blared throughout the flagship. Multiple quantum jumps detected, announced the tactical officer. Conclave peacekeeping fleet has arrived, 16 capital ships with escort vessels. The view screen showed sleek, pearl-white vessels with the distinctive emblem of the Galactic Conclave, supposedly neutral arbiters of peace now revealed as puppet masters of perpetual war. Receiving transmission from the Conclave fleet, reported Alexandra, her expression grave. It's directed specifically to you, Eleanor. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike any the Earth team had encountered. Humanoid in general form but with translucent skin revealing a complex network of luminous circulatory pathways, the figure exuded an aura of ancient authority. Ambassador Reeves, the being spoke in flawless English, I am High Arbitrator Zandrath of the Galactic Conclave. Your interference in matters beyond your comprehension has been noted with extreme displeasure. Eleanor stepped forward, her diplomatic training masking her shock at being addressed directly. High Arbitrator, we have uncovered evidence of systematic manipulation. Zandrath raised a hand, silencing her with a gesture that somehow carried force across the transmission. Your species was assessed and deemed too unstable for full Conclave membership. This unauthorized diplomatic mission has confirmed that assessment. You will surrender your vessel and personnel for immediate quarantine and return to your solar system, which will be isolated behind a containment field for the next 500 years. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the command chamber in stunned silence. The implications were clear. Earth was to be imprisoned in its own solar system, cut off from the galaxy. Rodriguez, whose hybrid physiology seemed to be granting him unprecedented insights, approached Eleanor with urgency. They're terrified of us, he whispered. Not just our investigation, humanity itself. I can sense it through the ZKDAR components. There's something about us that truly frightens them. The 3 alien leaders converged around Eleanor, their ancient enmities temporarily forgotten in the face of this new threat. Your lieutenant is correct, confirmed the Nexus collective consciousness. The Conclave has already begun broadcasting altered evidence claiming your species engineered this entire situation to destabilize galactic order. Eleanor's mind raced through options, each seeming more desperate than the last. The combined might of the 3 factions could potentially defeat the Conclave fleet, but at catastrophic cost, and would likely trigger automatic protocols that would indeed isolate Earth behind impenetrable technology. As the command staff debated military options, Eleanor noticed Marcus Blackwood sitting quietly, reviewing ancient texts he had collected from all 3 civilizations. Marcus, she prompted. The anthropologist looked up, his expression illuminated with sudden understanding. It's not just about keeping these 3 powers fighting each other, he said, his voice gaining strength. The Conclave fears specific combinations of traits: Valkyrie strategic thinking, Nexus adaptability, ZKDAR collective consciousness. But most of all, they fear human unpredictability and innovation. He displayed an ancient Nexus prophecy alongside Valkyrie astronomical calculations and ZKDAR collective memory impressions. All 3 civilizations have legends about the convergence, a time when 4 evolutionary paths would unite to break the cycle of conflict. Eleanor stared at the assembled data, then at Rodriguez, the living embodiment of human and ZKDAR convergence. We're not just mediators, she whispered, the revelation striking like lightning. We're the 4th piece of a puzzle they've been keeping apart for millennia. As the Conclave fleet moved into attack formation, Eleanor turned to the 3 alien leaders with newfound resolve. They've given us 6 hours to surrender. That's 6 hours to rewrite a history they've been controlling for centuries. The 6-hour ultimatum became a blur of activity as Eleanor coordinated the most ambitious diplomatic and military operation in human history. The command center of the Crystal Dominion transformed into a war room unlike any other. Representatives of 4 species who until recently had been bitter enemies now huddled around tactical displays, finishing each other's strategies. The Conclave's power has always rested on information control, Eleanor explained, addressing the combined leadership council. They've kept your civilizations isolated from each other's true strengths while emphasizing your incompatibilities. Rodriguez, whose hybrid physiology had continued to evolve, nodded in agreement. The Zkar components within me are connecting to the hive consciousness in ways that shouldn't be possible. It's as if some artificial barrier is dissolving. The Zkar concordance pulsed with excitement, thousands of component organisms moving in synchronized patterns. We have always sensed limitations in our collective awareness, restrictions we assumed were natural evolutionary boundaries. They were imposed. Similar revelations emerged across all species as centuries of manipulated perceptions began to unravel. The Valkyrie discovered that their crystalline physiology could resonate harmoniously with Nexus bioenergetic fields, a compatibility that had been actively suppressed through conclave medical advisories. The Nexus realized their adaptive genetic structure could stabilize Valkyrie crystal formations, potentially ending the degenerative condition that had plagued Valkyrie elders for millennia. Each discovery reinforced Marcus's theory about the convergence, for evolutionary paths designed to complement each other, artificially kept apart. While the scientists and diplomats explored these revelations, military leaders prepared for the inevitable confrontation. The conclave vessels are technologically superior to any single faction's ships, observed Commander Mitchell, studying tactical readouts. But they've never faced a truly unified opposition. Technical specialist Harrington had been working feverishly with engineers from all three species. Their communications rely on quantum entanglement networks similar to those used to manipulate your governments, he explained. If we can identify the specific frequency patterns. The young specialist's theory proved correct. By combining Valkyrie crystalline processing power, Nexus adaptive algorithms, Zkar distributed consciousness, and human innovative thinking, they created something entirely new, a counterfrequency that could temporarily disrupt conclave communications. With just 2 hours remaining in the ultimatum, Eleanor made her boldest move yet. "We're not going to fight them," she announced to the surprised military commanders. "We're going to reveal them, to everyone." Her plan was audacious, using the combined fleet not as a weapon but as a broadcasting platform. Every ship would be equipped with modified transmitters carrying evidence of the conclave's manipulation, targeted at every inhabited system in the quadrant. The technical challenges were enormous, but for the first time in centuries, the three most advanced civilizations in known space were working in perfect harmony, with human innovation as the catalyst. As engineers reconfigured communication arrays, Rodriguez approached Eleanor privately, his hybrid appearance now drawing curious rather than fearful glances from passing aliens. "There's something else," he said quietly. "The Zkar components are accessing ancestral memories beyond their normal generational limits. The conclave, they're not what they appear to be." He struggled to translate the alien concepts flooding his consciousness. "They're refugees of some kind. Survivors from a previous galactic cycle who feared the rise of new civilizations. They've been manipulating evolutionary paths for millions of years, directing development away from certain capabilities they consider threatening." Eleanor processed this revelation as the final pieces fell into place. "They're not malevolent," she realized. "They're terrified. They created the conclave as a containment system, to prevent what they see as history repeating itself." With 30 minutes remaining before the ultimatum expired, the combined fleet moved into a formation that would have been unimaginable weeks earlier: Valkyrie battleships protected by Nexus adaptive shields, Zkar hive vessels coordinating tactical movements, and at the center, the modest human diplomatic vessel Olive Branch, now serving as the command center for the unprecedented alliance. High Arbitrator Xandratha's image appeared once more on the command view screen. "Your time has expired, Ambassador Reeves. Surrender your vessel and personnel immediately." Eleanor stood before the transmission, flanked by representatives of all three species and her human team. "We decline, Arbitrator. Instead, we offer you a choice: engagement with the combined fleet, or dialogue with the convergence you have feared for so long." The Arbitrator's translucent features contorted with emotion. "You cannot possibly understand, but we do," Eleanor interrupted. "We understand you are survivors, protecting the galaxy from a threat from your past. We understand you believe separation and conflict are necessary for containment. But we're offering something better: cooperation that strengthens rather than weakens." Without waiting for a response, she nodded to Harrington, who activated the broadcasting system. Across thousands of worlds throughout the quadrant, communication systems activated simultaneously. The evidence of centuries of manipulation began streaming to civilizations that had been kept in artificial isolation, along with a simple message: the age of division ends today. The convergence begins. The Conclave fleet's response was immediate, weapon systems powering up as they moved to silence the broadcast. But as they fired their first salvos, something unprecedented occurred. Rodriguez, standing at Eleanor's side, suddenly convulsed as the Zcathar components within him responded to the attack. His consciousness expanded exponentially, connecting not just with the Zcathar concordance but somehow reaching into the Nexus Collective and even the crystalline neural networks of the Valkyrie. "They're part of us," he gasped, his voice overlapping with alien harmonics. "The Conclave, their genetic material is in all of us. They didn't just manipulate our evolution, they are our ancestors." This revelation rippled through the connected consciousness of all four species as Rodriguez became the living embodiment of the convergence, the bridge between four evolutionary paths that were never supposed to be separate. As Conclave weapons fire approached the Alliance fleet, the impossible happened: the energy beams slowed, then stopped entirely, suspended in space by forces that defied conventional physics. "They can't attack us," Rodriguez explained, his voice now calm as he adapted to the expanded consciousness. "The convergence creates a quantum resonance field they cannot penetrate, because it contains their own genetic signature. Their weapons literally cannot harm their own descendants when united in this configuration." Eleanor stared in awe at the suspended energy weapons, then at Rodriguez, the living proof that cooperation between species wasn't just possible but transformative. She turned back to the still-active transmission with High Arbitrator Zandrath, whose expression had shifted from anger to something approaching wonder. "We've broken your cycle of fear," Eleanor said gently. "Now let us help you break your cycle of isolation. Join us in dialogue, not as controllers, but as the ancestors you truly are." As the Conclave fleet powered down its weapons, Eleanor realized they had achieved something far greater than preventing a battle or exposing a conspiracy. They had initiated an evolutionary leap forward, not just for the four species present, but potentially for all intelligent life in the galaxy. The true test, she knew, would be what came next, transforming this moment of crisis into lasting change.